So welcome everybody, welcome to our monthly webinar. We are the ITEFL Learning Technology Special Interest Group, and among other professional learning opportunities, we organize webinars like this one on the use of technology in English language teaching. Of course, because of the pandemic and the school closures and the need to move online, our latest sessions are about teaching online. We have a great bank of resources for members in our members area, and you will also find recordings from previous webinars on our YouTube channel, which is public for everybody. And our YouTube channel is a must follow. If you want to become an LTSIG member, you simply become an ITEFL member and you choose the LTSIG as your group. Our members say that it is a life-changing experience in terms of learning and networking. Belen is here and other members are here and they can confirm that. So do join us. So moving on to today's session, our very own Phil Longwell is going to be looking at collaboration in breakout rooms on Blackboard Collaborate, which is this platform that we are on. It's going to be a hands-on interactive session, something that is so important when we teach online. So I'm going to pass the mic on to Vicky, who is going to introduce Phil.
Well, so here we are, and I'm really excited to have Phil as our speaker today. He has been an English language teacher since 2006, when he started off as a volunteer in Tanzania. He has worked in South Korea, China, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia, and the United Kingdom. He has a CELTA from Nile and an MA in English language teaching from the University of Warwick, where he specialized in ICT and multimedia. He has worked on 4 pre-sessional courses in the UK, the most recent of which was with the University of Sheffield 2020, which he is into his final week of. He has a passion for screen capture software, digital feedback, and filmmaking. He is also the current web manager for the ITEFL Learning Technologies Special Interest Group, and he tweets us Teacher Philly. So here with you, our dear Phil.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hear me now? Sorry, yes. That wasn't, I knew that I was on mute. I was trying to start the recording. So could one of the mods check if it's being recorded? Because I don't know if I successfully started the recording. So could we just check?
Yes, it is, Phil.
We should be getting there. The slides should be coming up any second now.
They are.
Okay, yeah. Great. Okay, if I could ask the mods to turn off the videos now and just audio for the moment. Yeah, good. Okay, and then I'll go back to chat. I do apologize for the delay. I think because I'm hosting it this end, I think what's happening is it's taking a while for me to see the slides in the main window, but I understand that you can see those now. I'm going to take myself back to the chat so I can see the chat. Right, I've now got the chat again. So thank you, welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I can't yet see the slides, unfortunately, which I understand you can. So maybe if you could just tell me in the chat that you can see the first slide, just say yes or something in the chat. Great, and yeah. And also, could you just tell me maybe where you're from just say where you're from today, which city or country you're coming from today? Just maybe type that in the chat just so I know that you can hear me okay. Great. Okay. Okay, well, I've never had 73 participants in Collaborate. I've been working this summer with around 25, 26 participants. I'd like to tell you what we're going to do today. So today's session is called Getting Students to collaborate in breakout rooms in remote teaching. And for this workshop, all you'll need is your microphone turned on when required. We're not going to allow cameras on because it gets too heavy on Collaborate to use cameras as well, and it can also be a bit confusing with lots of cameras on the screen at the same time. Just to say that all the slides today were made with Google Slides from a template created by the English Language Teaching Centre. Here, where I'm currently at, is in Sheffield, the University of Sheffield. I've been doing a pre-session all this summer, and I've got one more week to go on that. Okay, so what are we going to do in this workshop? Well, the objectives today, so in order to develop your understanding of using breakout sessions, we're going to understand, first of all, the settings and options in Collaborate, which is what we're using today. You're going to try out a couple of breakout sessions, going to discuss how to use breakout groups effectively, discover some tips, some good practice, and share your own ideas. Now, although we're using Blackboard Collaborate today, we used to be called Illuminate, we could also share some of these tips or discuss some of the ways of using breakout groups in Zoom or a similar live teaching Blackboard. So it's not essentially about Collaborate, although we're using Collaborate today, and I'm going to give you some guides to how Collaborate will work as well. I'm just going to move on the next slide. Okay, so ways to interact in Collaborate. If you haven't already found these out, there's a ways to turn on your microphone and camera. You won't have the option to turn on the camera today, but you will have the option to use your microphone, which I'll encourage you to do so in the breakout sessions. You can raise your virtual hand. There's a raise hand feature down at the bottom, and that will appear in the participants list. That's if you need to ask a question or to turn your microphone on. You might want to try that out now. And if you try it out now, I'll assume that you're just trying it out. And of course, a lot of you have already found the chat box, and you can use that to ask questions. I mean, the chat box, contribution is more important than spelling. That's what we tell our students, And you can also ask me to go slower, or you can go faster, but I'll probably try to keep at this speed. I'm going to ask the moderators to keep an eye on the chat because I can't see all of the chat messages myself. Although I've got the chat window open, I may miss some of the messages. So if you do have a question, maybe type it in the chat, and then Vicky or one of the other moderators will make a note of the questions, and they will try to answer those at the end. Okay, there's some more options in Collaborate. You can use the Zoom tool, top left. There should be an option in the window where the slides are, and that enables you to make the slides bigger or smaller. The default setting is a kind of 1-to-1 ratio, so you should be able to see that. You might wish to detach the participants list from the everyone chat box. So at the moment, the participants list probably is down at the bottom right. There's a couple of people, an icon with the number of people. You can click on that, and you can also detach the panel in your own time. It's not essential for today's session, but that is an option. And then what happens if you detach that is that the participants list and the moderator list will appear next to the window and leave the everyone chat free. And the other thing, as a lot of people have already discovered, is that you can use emojis. And there is also different types of chat. So there's the everyone chat, which you're using at the moment. And in breakout sessions, there's also group chat and private one-to-one chat. So you have that feature enabled today, where you can send a message privately like you can in others. Okay, a warmer activity for all of you. So to get you started, I'd like you to unscramble these anagrams I'll give you a clue. They are all educational theories or ways of learning, learning methods. Have a look at them. There's 6 to look at. See if you can unscramble any of these and type your answers in the chat box. So we've got Mike's got a couple of ideas already. Suzanne's come in with one as well. Yeah. Mike's racing away with 3 answers already. Give you a little bit more time to see if you can figure these out. Any more? So we have blind laden genre, necktie hits, civic nuts storms, annoying nurse scholar. Is that Scott Thornbury teaching unplugged? I was going to put Dogme, but I thought that'd be too easy. Okay, let's check. Don't criticize me if I've got these wrong in terms of being theories or methods. It's yeah, they are they are quite hard. Okay, so let's go through them. So yes, blended learning was the first one. Kinesthetic was the second one. Then I think we had. I think Mike got this one, was constructivism. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. Sorry, the slides are going a bit slow for me, but it's catching up. It takes a while. Annoying nurse scholar. I don't think anyone put anything. Bellen's got hybrid learning for one. I think you might be right, Bellen. Yeah, annoying nurse scholar was asynchronous learning. Well, I don't know whether you call that it's not really a method, but it's a way of learning. Bellen was right with hybrid learning for I angrily bend H. If my slides would move on, then hopefully the answer would be a bit quicker. Yes, there's hybrid learning. And anyone got cellulite limping teens? Anyone? Graham, maybe. Can you prefer I angrily bend H? No one got the last one. I think the last one was probably the most difficult one, not one that we are really familiar with. Multiple intelligences was the last one. Okay, yeah, no Dogme, because Dogme would have been far too easy, Scott. Sorry, Scott. Maybe I should have made it easier. Maybe I should have started with Dogme. Yeah. In hindsight, it would have been a good one to go with. Anyway, bit of theory first. So I don't want to bore you too much, but a lot of what I'm doing today and what we do in breakout rooms is based upon constructivism. It's a very old way of learning. Okay, so constructivism, learners construct meanings. They're not just told the meaning of everything. And in a dynamic classroom environment, then it's more democratic and decision making is a bit more co-constructed, we would like to think. Okay, just move on. And then also with constructivism, you have things like it's learner-centered. You can have things like Socratic dialogues, knowledge, construction in an environment which supports active and collaborative learning. I mean, the instructor has a different kind of role, and there's student roles, which involves being active, being a collaborator, and as I've already said, being a co-constructor of knowledge, which we'd hoped that would happen in breakout sessions as well. Another methodology is flipped learning, and I'm sure you're all familiar with flipped learning. This is where you do the groundwork, or students do the groundwork before the class, a fully flipped learning course, it's more easily deliverable, I would argue, in a completely online situation. And also the live session can exploit task-based learning and free production. So you do the groundwork, you do the basic lower level thinking skills before class, and focus on language production and also assessment in the live synchronous session. And also another theory that's getting a bit old now, which is connectivism, which is the idea of students being connected all around the world. And we've had this for some time, but it's even more true now with COVID-19 and the restrictions on teaching and the changes that a lot of us have had to make. And also connectivism is very important in terms of students are also encouraged to seek out information on their own and not just rely upon the teacher. Okay, quick guide to Collaborate. Has anyone used Collaborate before, or is using it now, or is going to use it in the near future? Type your ideas in the chat. Yeah, so Pete says we flipped this summer. It's working. A couple of yeses, few yeses, some nos. Yes, I'm planning to partly use. Yes, used before managing a team of 8 tutors, says Maureen. Teaching and collaborating for professionals, yes. So more yeses than nos at the moment. If you say yes, I don't know if that means you're using it now or maybe you're going to use it in the future. Yeah. Also Adobe. Yeah. Mandated to use, says Katie Simpson. Yeah. Very quickly, I'm just going to go through some of the settings in Collaborate. You can enter as a guest, and all of you were giving a link today to enter as a guest or a participant, but I entered as a moderator because I had access given to me by David Reed here, who is the Director of Technology here at the English Language Teaching Centre in Sheffield. And once you are in a Blackboard Collaborate session, there are various options as well. One of the interesting things is a profanity filter, so you can actually remove or prevent swear words being said in the chat. I'm not sure that's available in Zoom. Okay, and there's some settings and notifications in Collaborate. Some of these you may have already found while you were waiting for the webinar to start. Some of these you may have found since. So the little cog on the bottom right, as you look at it, is a cog which opens up some personal notification settings for you, so you can turn things on and off. You can share files. You can't share Word documents, but you can share PDFs, and you can share images, and we're going to show how to do that in a minute. You can also share an application screen, which is similar to Zoom, so you can share a Chrome tab or a browser tab or an application window. And you can also use notification settings to turn off whether you have the settings or the notifications appear as a pop-up, or you can have an audio notification. By default, you get an audio notification, I think, for chat messages, but you can turn that off and you can enable and disable these kinds of alerts. Waiting for my slide to move on. And you can also obviously set out breakout groups as well. Breakout groups can be done during the session, and I'm going to do an example of that shortly in terms of setting up breakout groups. And you can choose the number of breakout groups and either have custom assignment or you can have random assignment. You can also manually move people between breakout groups after they started. So there's lots of options in terms of setting up breakout rooms within Collaborate. As I say, you generally have either a custom assignment or you have a random assignment. But today we're not going to use the random, we're going to use just the custom assignment. Okay, so moving on to the core of today's webinar, and this is where we're going to get a bit more practical. In terms of setting up breakout rooms, breakout groups, those words are used interchangeably, by the way. This is what it looks like to everyone. So if you've already detached your panel, then it would appear in the black window, or you will be able to find your group there. So if you haven't already done it, could you detach the attendee panel, and you'll need to do that by going down to the bottom, clicking on the participant thing, and then going up to the top and clicking on the 3 dots at the top. It's not essential, but you might need it in order to enter one of the 6 breakout groups that have already been set up. The number of breakout groups depends on numbers, and this is what it would normally look like if the attendee panel is detached from the everyone chat. And each group, they call them groups rather than rooms, each group has a green arrow pointing to a door. So just tell me in the chat, can you tell me yes or no, can you see the 6 breakout groups and the 6 doors?
We can.
You can?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, because we're going to need those in a moment.
Yes, can I say something? Admin, some people are just jumping into groups already. If you wait a minute, I will post the list of the groups and who should go into each group, which is already prepared. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. We've got a lot of people today, and not everyone is going to follow the instructions at the time I give them. So that's understandable. As soon as I mention the fact that there are breakout groups, people are already thinking I should join. But I haven't told, don't enter any of the rooms just yet. If you have, you won't be able to hear what I'm saying, so you may be in there by yourself. So for those of you that are still in the main room, and there's 84 of you now, which is incredible, you're going to be put into one of 6 breakout groups, okay? Vicky has hopefully been working hard away, beavering away, trying to work out who's going to go into what groups. There's a lot of you today, so been cut out. In your room, so when you get to your breakout group, you will do a simple task, okay? You're not going to see the task beforehand, i.e. in the main room, okay? You'll see it when you get into the room. Yeah, we will be put into a breakout room, Sujatha. Yeah, we just need to wait a moment longer. You will have 10 minutes in total. Yeah, I know, some people are doing it. They couldn't wait. It's okay. Okay. Keen beans, yeah. Now, an LTSIG committee member, and there's 5 or 6 of us here today, or moderator, might drop into your room to facilitate the discussion, but don't wait for them to arrive. Carry on without them, but you might see one of them pop into your room. Okay, now an example setup for breakout groups. Say you had 6 groups. I mean, I've had 6 groups most of the summer on this EAP course that I've been teaching on. And you would say, okay, I've got 24 students. I'm going to put 4 students into each group. That's a nice number. It's 6 divided by 4. 6 times 4 is 24. That's nice. But when you've got 89 participants, how are you going to do that? That's going to be more tricky. Now, I've already set up 6 groups in advance, and I've already shared the task already in those breakout groups. Vicky, do you want to just turn your mic on a second, because I need your help here. What Vicky has done amazingly, this is incredible what Vicky has done here. She has made a list of all of your names and has assigned you a breakout room or breakout group. Incredible piece of work. Now in the chat, you should be able to see it. I would like you to find your names. Okay, find your names that Vicky has just posted in the chat. There's a huge list of names. You're either going to be in breakout room 1, breakout room 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So find your name. Okay, go scroll up and down the list. And when you are ready, Sujatha or anyone else, could you move yourself into that group? Move yourself into that room by clicking on the green arrow to the door. So find the group. This is going to take some time because there's so many of you. Yeah. Dr. Farah, yeah, if you're group 2 or room 2, doesn't matter, room or group 2 is to say, just find the room below the list of participants, and this is the point where people are going to join the group that they've been assigned. but I'd like you to move yourself. And I'm going to stay behind and deal with any stragglers or any people that have got lost or can't find the room. So join the room when you're up, and I'm going to start the 10 minutes now.
Yeah, group 6, I think Esra is here.
Somebody got the radio on in the back.
What about what platforms others use?
Yeah.
We're using Zoom.
Zoom, yeah. Zoom, breakout room on Zoom is possible. Do Blackboard breakout room?
Yes, it's basically the same functions.
Oh. Okay.
No,
So
but I
we
guess
have,
Blackboard is much more easier and a safer platform.
okay.
I find Blackboard more difficult, actually. I think Zoom is a lot easier and more intuitive, and you can record things a lot more easily.
We don't have a choice anyway. We're using Blackboard. We have no choice.
No, I have used Blackboard as a student. Do you have this kind of discussion also in that?
Okay, so we use Blackboard. We use the breakout rooms for small group work. For example, discuss an idea or talk to your partner about something. We use it to try and get students to speak to each other. How do you use it?
Okay. What instructions would you give to students before entering the group? How do you do it? I think
So I would.
Yeah, please.
I said I would just tell them, just encourage them to speak to each other. I find that when I go to different rooms, you find sometimes the students are sitting there in silence. Just trying to encourage them to use it. That's really the instructions which I would give to them. As well as the task, obviously, you need to instruct on the task.
Okay, can we hear from Tyson? I think Tyson Saban is here. Can you talk? Which one you people use? Tyson?
Sorry, which question are we talking about?
No, I'm talking about before. We don't know which platform you're using. Even you use you said Zoom, right?
Yes.
Okay, Zoom in the sense. So, what instructions you people give for? Like Kaiman said, that make them talk. What we do is we give them a specific group activity. Give them a question like this and ask them to discuss and answer. What do you do?
Well, basically the same, but I mean, it changes every time. It depends on what we want them to do in the breakout rooms. So if we want them to talk to each other, then we would give them the discussion prompt, for example. But if we want them to work together on a document, then we would share a Word collaborative document, for example, and they would be just working together on that in the breakout rooms. And then usually I join in and out to answer questions and see how they're doing.
Okay. Any other answers? Should we go for the next one?
Sujata, do you have breakout rooms in Google Classroom as well? I don't think so.
Which one? Teams. No, I use breakout rooms so far. I've used only in Zoom. I was trying to find out Teams. Is it there in Teams? I want to know. People say Teams does everything. I have not used breakout rooms in other platforms. Only in Zoom I've used.
Okay.
Is there anyone who has used Teams, MS Teams? I think no one is there. Okay. Okay. What kind of things can the moderator? I mean, I have used very minimally. You people have to tell. In Blackboard, you would have. What do you monitor? What do you look for?
Depends upon the activity, what kind of activity.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I know. As long as everyone knows it, other than the speaker, let's all mute ourselves. Ma'am, you go
Again.
It seems to be you, Sujitha. I think.
Hello, I have muted myself.
It's so amusing.
And if there's anyone still in the main room wants to talk to me or having any problems, yeah.
Yeah, I feel sorry. It's Pete here.
Hi Pete.
The interface. So I'm scrolling up and down the list, but I just can't find that lovely green arrow.
Right. Can you see any? You can't see any at all.
No, I can just see like the lists of people. So I'm scrolling up and down them. It's just not knowing the interface.
Yeah, yeah.
But don't worry, I'll just hang around. I really want to go in one.
You can stay with me because there'll be a second breakout session later. So it doesn't matter if you stay in with me because we're going to go through the answers in the main room anyway.
Yeah, it's such a shame, Phil, because I've got to tear away in a couple of minutes. We're going to Ipswich. I'll just keep trying and then I'll watch the recording. But absolutely great. I so wish I could stay. It's fantastic to just be here. Anyway, I'll keep looking for the room and good luck with the rest.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm here in breakout room 3. I'm supposed to be in room R3, but breakout room 3, but I can't.
So who was that? Is that Dr. Ishmael?
Ah, an arrow. An arrow.
Right now.
You found it?
No, I didn't find the green, but earlier I found it and I was in the room number 2. Then I came out, then I can't I can't re-enter.
Okay, right.
Gamal Hassan as well here. I'm supposed to be in room 3. Okay.
I'm in room 2. I should be in room 2.
Okay, well, don't worry too much if you can't get into one of the rooms now or you went in and came out, because everyone will come back to this main room very, very soon, in about 5 or 6 minutes time. So you could just stay in the main room for now. It's fine. It's as long as some people go into each of the groups, it's fine. So they are having a discussion about the 4 questions in those groups. You can stay in this main room with me. It's fine. Yeah.
Excuse me, I think there is a great discrepancy between the breakout rooms on the chat and on the real screen.
Sorry, could you ask that again, Gamal?
Yeah, because I can see there is a lot of participants on the chat, as breakout rooms, but they're not there in real breakout rooms.
Right. Okay. I'm going to end the sessions now, so everyone's going to come back. So there might be a lot of microphones still on when people come back. Yeah. So we'll deal with that when we come back. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. So people should be coming back into the main room now. Thank you, Rosario, for letting me know we're back. Hi, Keith. Thank you. You can type something in the chat. That's fine. Okay. I know some of you managed to get. I think more people than not managed to get into one of the groups. I hope that you can hear me. Heike, can you hear me? Heike, can you hear me? I hope as people rejoin the rooms. Collaborate will struggle a little bit with so many people. Yeah, sorry about that, Sujatha. I'm sure you were having a great discussion there. At least that tells me that the slide was in the room and that part of this worked. As everyone came back in, a lot of microphones were on, and therefore I muted all. Oh, I've just lost my slides, but that's possibly temporary. Vicky, Vicky, did you go into one of the groups? Or Graham, maybe you joined one of the groups. I'm just waiting for my connection to come back.
Yeah, I joined one of the groups.
Sorry?
Yeah, I joined one of the groups. I was in group 1, and we had a good discussion.
Okay. So I'm just waiting for my slides to come back. While we're waiting, and if you can still hear me, maybe you can tell me what you were discussing, general discussion in the chat box. So use the chat box to give me some feedback on what you discussed while I wait for my slides to reappear.
Can you hear me, please? Philip.
Hi, everybody. It looks like we have lost Phil, but he is reconnecting.
Yeah.
So while we wait for him, can you please share your experience of the questions you discussed in room in the chat box?
Myself, I'm using Zoom, it's much more friendly. And you can easily hand it to your tasks, and you can have different tools as well.
Mr. Jamal, I can hear you.
Yeah, great. Myself, I'm using Zoom,
Yeah.
It's much more friendly, and you have lots of tools as well and settings. So at the very beginning of your class, you can make your own settings. So you can manage them the way you like, whether for participants to join you on demand or just right away, and what tools you'd like to use during your class. So there are lots to do, in fact.
Okay, so while Phil tries to get back with us, here is the first set of top tips for breakout rooms. So I will read them aloud, and as soon as Phil comes back, he can expand on them. So make sure you have the main and breakout slides already uploaded to Collaborate. You can pre-assign breakout rooms and share the slides before the lesson begins. So if you know who your students are, you can pre-assign who is going to go into each group and have the slides prepared in advance. Give clear instructions that came up during the discussion in my grouped list. So give clear instructions of what students should do and how much time they have. Take the option for students to move themselves so that they don't have to depend on you to be moved. And make sure that everybody knows what group they should be in, and give a warning before starting. So put the list up. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Vicky, I presume that you saw that I was kicked out of the session myself. I lost complete connectivity. Hopefully you can hear me again, and I've caught up with the chat. Apologies, because I'm hosting it as well as presenting it's with so many people in the room, my connectivity is being affected today, so apologies for that. But I think Vicky thankfully stepped in and read out the first of 5 sets of tips that I had for using breakout groups, and maybe some of you came up with these yourselves in those. But please continue to use the chat box to share the ideas, co-construct knowledge, and also share your tips, because I don't have all the answers. But I do have a second set of tips, which hopefully you can see now on the screen. So for difficult tasks, I would show the breakout slide in the main first and check understanding before asking students to move to the correct room. Keep the same groups throughout the course, maybe for one skill. So if you're on an EAP course like I had been this summer, one regular group for writing, but then have a second group for other kinds of lessons such as speaking and seminars. Vary the number of breakout rooms and be flexible if something isn't working. Encourage students to turn on mics and cameras if appropriate. That's often needed for assessment, but most of the time it's probably best not to have cameras on. But when you go into a breakout room, you have more rights, you have more options in a breakout room as a participant, and one of those is to not only use microphones, but to use other features in there. Yeah, and also when warn students, so I tried to warn you that there was 2 minutes left and that there was 1 minute left, but bear in mind that when you go into a breakout group, you're going to have a group chat, which you can use, as well as the everyone chat, so you might need to go between those two and keep an eye on that. Good. So just quickly, a quick reminder that what we're doing in breakout groups essentially is the teacher cannot always be there. to monitor what's going on. They might be able to monitor for some of the time, but you might have a lot of students or a lot of different groups. You might be code teaching and always teaching with somebody else at this, and you might monitor one group at a time, but you can't monitor all groups. So just think about it being sort of learner-centered, more co-constructed knowledge, students as collaborators, encouragers, and so on and so forth. Okay. Right, now that was a mixed response. That was a, how can I say, that partly worked, that first breakout session. It partly worked because I'd already set up the groups in advance, and I had already preloaded the slides as well into those breakout groups. For the second breakout session, I need to look at how many participants we have. So let me think about this for just a moment. Okay, on this occasion, I'm going to set up 10 groups. And the reason is that with 10 groups, there might be fewer participants in each group. I'm going to allow you to be able to switch groups. And yeah, I'm going to give you that option of being able to move yourselves and also to move back into the main room or to switch between groups, because I don't want to say, oh yeah, you've got to go into this group. So in the second task, you're going to discuss 4 more questions. This time, the questions will be shown to you in the main room beforehand. Okay, where I set up the groups this time. You'll notice that because I brought you all back into the main room, those rooms have now disappeared. For this second one with 4 more questions, you're going to have, again, 10 minutes in total. So we might overrun slightly. And also, you can use the chat box, so use your group chat to record some of your answers. And maybe an optional thing this time is you could decide on a role. So one of you could be the timekeeper, as Esther was doing, thankfully. She was keeping an eye on the time and feeding back into the everyone chat. You could have a discussion leader. This is an optional thing. I don't think we're going to have the time or the facility to do this today. Just enter one of the rooms and also take it try out the group. So those that didn't manage to find the room last time, hopefully you'll manage to find one of the rooms this time. And this is the task. So you're going to have a further discussion, a further practice of using the breakout groups. And these are the questions that you're going to have. I'll give you a moment to look at these as I start the groups.
Yes. My pleasure. Chris Fry and I are both in Barcelona.
Hi there, Scott.
Hi, Chris. I wonder if this was accidental or they put us together. Well, I've only used Zoom, and even then, I'm not proficient with the breakout room systems. That's why I'm here. I'm intrigued by this thing of being able to upload the slide into the breakout room, and I wonder if you can do that in Zoom.
I don't think you can.
No.
You sound great at the moment. Yeah, no problem. I find sound is always a bit unpredictable. Sometimes it's fine, and then other times you get this feedback, and other times you get like an echo, and it's not always easy to predict. I always try and get my students to use headphones as much as possible, but some people don't like using headphones. I think you have to always remind them. I'm sort of currently in Portugal, sort of temporarily, but I might end up living here. I was on my way to Spain, but Okay, today is slower than it usually is. But when we had our training session at Sheffield, then actually the trainer was freaking out a little bit. 'Cause if you click on something, you need to click and count to 5. If you're new to it, and at the moment we've got a lot of participants, you don't usually have this number of people in the classroom, so things work more quickly. But if you've got a lot of people, you need to click and wait, because if you don't, you click and nothing happens, and then you start clicking somewhere else. So you're like somebody like repeatedly hitting the button on a lift to try and close the doors.
Now, we seem to have the slide, but we don't have the participants.
We don't have the participants. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I can't see the icons for the participants, but even then, I was not able to tell who was talking. What was I not seeing?
If you look right down the bottom underneath the attendees panel, the black panel, you can see a little icon with the name, and if people's videos are on, then that's one thing I'm not keen on either. If you have the slides up in the main room, then you can't see everybody. So yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, as I said, it doesn't normally take this long. I think it's just because we've got so many people on the system. Okay.
Question about the annotation tools.
Sorry?
The question about number 2, what could you use the annotation tools for? I'm just going to try out something.
Go for it.
A text box. So now where does that appear? I've clicked on a T.
You click on the T at the top of the screen, and then if you click anywhere on the slide.
On the slide.
Oh, it's not. Oh, it's tried and it's not. Oh yeah, there we go.
Okay.
I don't usually let my students, in the breakout rooms, then it's okay. In the main room, I don't usually let them use them.
So you turn that option off, presumably in the settings.
Yeah, in the settings, then you can turn on and off whether the students can chat to each other, turn their microphones on or not, and share their video or not.
Yeah, it's very distracting because I've been giving talks on Zoom and suddenly my slide is covered with kind of squiggles, and it really threw me.
I think on Zoom there are a lot of settings. In this one, there aren't so many settings. So, for example, maybe I'd like everyone to be able to write just in the general chat box, but not to be privately messing each other. But you don't have that option. It's either all or nothing. Okay. Any comments on how to monitor the breakout rooms?
To monitor. Well, you can only do one at a time for a start.
Yeah.
So, can they ask you to come to their room? There's no sort of hand raising thing, is there?
If you raise your hand, they will see that your hand is raised. And if you click in the everyone chat box, that will also go to the everyone room. You can also, if you click at the top of your screen where it says everyone, you can send a private message to the moderator. So it's you've got everyone or your group or the moderator to send a private message to him.
Okay. So at the moment I'm in group chat, so I'm getting all this kind of, how do I get into, oh, I see, group, hi, are we group 8? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's one of the things I'm not keen on because having to flip between the chats can be a bit of a pain in the neck. Okay. Yeah, monitoring is one thing I'm not keen on for online teaching because you just sort of have to sort of flip between rooms and, you know, sort of check what they're doing. Sometimes I'll write a message in the everyone chat box, but a lot of the time then students don't have it open.
Right.
So, you know, it's that whole flipping backwards and forwards that it'd be nice to be able to open it or close it, or to choose how big the chat box is going to be. I mean, I could have that half that size, you know, and have the other chat box on top of it, so you could have the both together that you can see. I think that'd be more, yeah. So it's strange all these platforms.
But you've been using Collaborate or the Zoom?
I've used Zoom, Collaborate, and I've even forgot the name of it now. Another one as well, and a company one also. But yeah, it's strange. They all have their little quirks, don't they?
Which I'm discovering.
What other external tools or collaborative documents could you use alongside the live platform?
Yeah.
Things like Google Docs I like, but then we've got Chinese students. They've just been experimenting with a system to allow them access.
Okay.
Is it just you and me in this group? Hello, everyone.
What about Padlet? Have you used Padlet?
I have, but only a little bit. Because you've got to pay for it unless you have a really, really basic thing. It's quite limited as to how much you can do unless you want to pay for it. And I'm tight-fisted. 2 minutes left, and maybe 1 minute left now. What other things could you do in the breakout rooms?
You see, I mean, I've been trying to grapple with this, with trying to use tasks that I use reasonably successful in real classrooms, getting to know you kind of tasks, where, for example, like you draw a star, and on each point of the star, you write some personal information, a name, a date, a number, etc.
Yeah.
But doing that in Zoom, first of all, just drawing the star, or you can upload a star, but then, you know, I mean, or can you? I mean, so it's kind of, oh my God, this is so problematic.
If it's just a document, then you can paste a star onto a document, onto a Google document, and everybody can use Google Docs and share screen to write in the same place. And even if it's not share screen, they could use Google Docs off screen in a separate window, as it were. So they're still, you know, looking at the same document.
But would they all be writing onto the same document? Wouldn't it get a bit crowded? Anyway.
For that you need to, for that you need to allocate a certain amount of time. Oh, nice to speak to you. Take care, Scott. Bye all.
I think Esther told me that slides were there eventually.
Yeah. We could see them after, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So it worked. How do you share the slides from the main room to breakout rooms? Because we didn't have this function.
Yeah. Well, it is an option. So when you share files, you can either share files in the main room like you see now, or you can share individual breakout slides in individual rooms, and you can also share different slides in different rooms if you want to do sort of differentiation or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I'm saying that probably 3 months ago, 4 months ago, we didn't have this function. Maybe it's a new one, or maybe, you know, the uni hadn't activated it somehow. I don't know.
Oh, right. Okay. I'm going to end the session there.
Yeah.
Groups that will move together, and you can give the instructions that they should move from room 1 to room 2, then to room 3, then to room 4 in that order. And so when you tell to which room they have to go.
People are coming back into the main room, so I'll just type a welcome back message to people coming back into the main room. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right, it's the final countdown. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm just going to mute all at the moment, so that includes the mods as well, I think. So I hope that you can hear me. Can you type yes in the chat box, someone, if you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Yeah, Graham said dropped a number of different rooms. Okay. Yeah, so Graham's asked a very good question. It's problematic if students aren't communicating. So you go into a room and no one's speaking. Often if the slides are not in the room as they weren't here, you'll find that students are left floundering. They're left with nothing to talk about because there's no task for them to do. So my first point here is that if you preload the slides, into the breakout groups and you start the breakout groups before the session starts, that removes it's time saving, and it removes the problems of what I just faced, in terms of I had the problem of I couldn't share the slides in a quick enough time, so you were left for 2 to 3 minutes without a task to do, and that's problematic. The only reason that this has happened today is because we've got so many participants. Normally you would have maybe 6 groups of 4 students or 3 students in each group, and Collaborate would work a lot more quickly, it would be more efficient. I was just affected at my end, and I couldn't share the slides in the time that I wanted to share them. Okay, so that's that. Yes, obviously much better with slides. And as I say, I got into the habit this summer of always starting the breakout rooms before the lesson and putting the slides into the rooms before the lesson, because it cuts out that problem of, oh, where is the slides? Can I find it? And then the time delay can be 2 minutes sometimes. Normally it shouldn't be that long, but it can take a time to find the slides and to share them into each of the groups. And of course, you can share different slides in different groups if you want to differentiate your lessons. And as Graham says, in other tools, sorry, who's that?
A very quick question. Is there a quick way to share the slide you have in the main room quickly through all the breakout rooms? Or do you have to individually go to each one?
No, you can share with all groups. So I had 10 groups there, and I shared one slide with all groups.
Okay, how do you do that?
So you haven't got that option as a participant today, but as a moderator, as a host, I have the option to go into share files, find the slide or the files that I want to share, such as the breakout slide, and then I have the option to either share it into the groups that I want to, or all groups. And what I did this time was set up 10 groups, and I shared the same breakout slide in all groups. Does that answer your question, Callum?
It does, yes.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? You can keep them for the end, because I want to move on, but hopefully you got some idea of the pitfalls of using Collaborate and what a teacher might need to think about. Joe Dale, who's here today, shared this with me just the other day, and it was an article by a teacher called Shana Ramin, who uses Google Slides and has an idea of using Google Slides and a breakout room note taker. I'm not going to go into it today, but I'll share a link at the end, and it's an interesting idea. And thanks to Joe for sharing that with me the other day. Just to move on, because we're getting towards the end, if I can just share the next slide, and it should come up any second now. It's my third set of 5 tips. So you've probably come up with your own set of tips. Hold on to those thoughts, because I'm going to ask you again in a minute. One of the issues is with audio. So if students are not using heads or earphones, you can get feedback and background noise. And we had a couple of participants today who we had some terrible feedback because their microphones were left on and they had it going through the speaker and back again, and we got the sound of Psycho. Unobtrusive monitoring. Now, my point here about unobtrusive monitoring is, if we all know as teachers what we would do in the physical classroom, but when we're in the virtual classroom, how do we monitor? How do we keep an eye on students, but also at the same time not be too obtrusive? So sort of staying back a little bit. And one way is you can join a breakout group one at a time, keep your camera off, keep your microphone off, make sure that they are on task. I've put here the panopticon principle. Now, if anyone knows Jeremy Bentham, 19th century designer of prisons, came up with the idea of panopticon, and I like to think that if students think that they're being watched, then they are being watched. So as far as they're concerned, if they think that you can come in at any time and they know that you're around, even if you're not in that room, then it's like you don't need to have to monitor 6 or 8 groups all at the same time, which is impossible. You can consider them being watched at all times. And as I've seen some people talking about, you can customize groups, and you can also do random groups. I haven't done random groups today. I've tried random groups a couple of times this summer on a pre-sessional course. It's fun, but it's unreliable. I've often find that slides get missing, or they get different slides, or they get the main slides in the breakout rooms. And so you can do random groups. It is fun, but I found it doesn't work as great. With smaller groups, maybe you can, if you've got 24 students, you could have 6 groups of 4, and that is possible. So you do have that option, and you can also manually move students around as well. A couple of more things. Think about numbers. What's the most effective? Now, today I'm overwhelmed with the number of people that have have joined today, but a more manageable size would be sort of 24 participants, 24 students. And I put on here bystander theory. Now, if you know what bystander theory is, it's got nothing to do with language teaching. It's to do with, you know, an incident happens, a public incident, a crime happens, and because it's in a crowded area in the city, because there's so many people, nobody intervenes because they already assume that somebody else is going to intervene. So my point here is that in breakout groups, you don't want too many in a breakout group. I find that the less or the fewer students there are in a breakout group, the more likely they're going to talk to each other. If you've got a large group with 10 people, first of all, not everyone can speak, and there's always the assumption that other people are going to speak first. So yeah, so that's my trying to link bystander theory and thinking about the numbers. So you want you can vary the number of groups, but it's going to depend on the students that you got, and also be prepared to be flexible. Use the main room, as I have done today. Use the main room as a breakout room, or set up a breakout room where you can have a one-to-one with a student as well. Okay, now we're getting towards the end. It's over to you. I've been unable to keep an eye on the chat. I hope Vicky and the other mods and Sophia and Graham have been able to keep an eye on some of the lengthy comments that are going on in the chat box. This is time for over to you. So you can put your hand up, raise your hand by using the icon below. You can then open your mic and give me your tips. What did you learn from the session today? What are your tips for breakout groups? Hafsa, you're the first to put your hand up. Would you like to put your microphone on?
Thank you. I just learned one thing. I had already created breakout rooms, groups when I was teaching listening and for teaching writing skills to my students. But one of the things that I learned, you know, when you are today, I'm a student actually. I'm acting as a student. So I put myself in the position of a student. What works the best? So I'm able to understand what works the best for my students. I learned one thing, that the slide instructions should be scaffolded very effectively. Number two, the students should be given the material or the slides before time. And number three, that monitoring the students is very important. These are the three things that I just learned today. And I would just like to state one thing more here. You know, we should start small and grow bigger. So I think so if we just give our students enough time, first not to put in so much content as just to give them enough practice how to enter the Google, the group, the breakup group.
Okay. Yeah.
So after that, we can start loading them with the content.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Hafsa. Yeah, you can put your mic off. Thank you for that comment. That's great. Sujatha, you have also something you wanted to say. Sujatha, is that I've pronounced your name right?
Yeah. I just learned two things. One, as a teacher, I know very less. I think I learned a lot more from the participant of the members of the breakout room. That is one. Two, after the two breakout room discussions, the point you said, you know, the less the number, more the collaboration, more discussion happen in the second group. So that is one thing. I decided when I perform breakout room activity, I should make sure there's not too many.
Yeah,
there's not much discussion will happen. That is the learning I learned from the actual participation today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Esther, did you have something? You had your hand raised at one point. Did you want to speak something? Say something?
Yes, actually, I was going to say same as Heike put in the comments. And the tip was allow longer time in the breakout rooms. The time seems too short. And I have this in my classrooms. I know by the time they finish sort of getting there, and especially students with weak connections, it takes them a bit longer. And yeah, I think having fewer breakout rooms for a longer period of time is better than trying to fit in 3 5-minute activities, for example.
Indeed, thank you. Yes. So that is definitely an issue. I mean, having enough time. When I've been teaching this summer, we've had hour slots or hour-long lessons, and sometimes in the planning there's 3 breakout sessions. I've always rejected a third breakout session. I think 2 breakout sessions is more than enough. Maybe only just 1, but as long as these are managed effectively, and you have to be a bit flexible on the time. Sophia said that her advice would be give deliverables. Students need to know what so students need to know what they're going to bring back to the main room. That's very true. So setting up the task and scaffolding, as somebody just mentioned as well, is an idea. Yeah. Any other tips? Anybody else want to either type in the chat box or speak before we come towards the close? You can carry on asking questions in the chat box. It's been impossible to keep an eye on all the chat because as a host of a webinar in a platform that is mostly set up for teaching, not for giving webinars. This platform is really designed for webinars. I
have recorded a few questions. If you wanted to
straight away, you can ask me the first one.
The first was right at the beginning when you were talking about the profanity filter, and somebody asked if it works only in English.
That's probably American English. I've no idea. I've not even tried it. But I said for today, if somebody has sworn in another language, I'm sorry I missed it. You probably got away with it. I really don't know.
Okay. Another question is, when you are in a breakout room, can the students see the main room chat as well, or only the breakout room chat? I know you can as a moderator, but as a student?
Yeah, you can. So students will have, when you go to a breakout group or breakout room, it would automatically default to that group chat, but you can toggle between the group chat and the everyone chat. Don't forget that pop-ups also appear from the everyone chat. So if I've given a 2-minute warning or a 1-minute warning or a countdown, that will also appear as a pop-up. So they don't necessarily need to have the everyone chat open. But yes, there is a group chat and an everyone chat, and you can also exchange one-to-ones, but that's also something that can be turned off or on.
Okay, and the other questions were already answered in the chat, so if somebody has a different question.
Yeah, is there any more questions there? So do we assign roles before we put them in breakout rooms or allow? My experience this summer is to assign roles. So I assign students in certain groups, but in terms of assigning roles, well, it depends what you're teaching. I've taught academic reading circles this summer. We've done a lot of academic reading circles, so their roles will change week on week. So one will lead it, the next week there'll be a connector, and they change roles week by week, but it's done on a week by week basis. So Mike said he swore in French and it proved possible. Formidable, Mark. Rosa, your roles will change another session. Any more questions, or can we bring that to a close there? I mean, I'm going to stay around for 5 more minutes with the committee.
Hello, Phil.
Who's that?
Hi, sir.
Hello there.
Yeah, thank you very much for your session. You're very exciting.
Okay.
What is the ideal time for students to attend a session online?
How do you mean? What's the time for students?
And how long should be the session? You know, for teachers like this webinar today, we stayed like 1 hour. What about the students at like university or other people?
Well, my experience this summer is an hour is long enough for a lesson to do what you want to do in that lesson, and within a lesson you might only have 1 or 2 breakout rooms sessions at most. We would normally have an hour, then a half an hour break, and then students would come back for a further hour. But all of this summer I've been working with, say, 24 students, so that I have had 6 groups of 4, and we would move on from one topic in the first hour and then maybe move on to another task or another lesson with a different objective in the second hour. But 2 hours a day would be enough, or more than enough. Remember that this platform is not really set up for webinars, so this is quite experimental today, and Collaborate can run very slowly, and it can be quite unresponsive at times when there are many participants, as I found today. Connectivity tends to come and go, so depending on where your students are kind of calling in from or attending from, connectivity can come and go, and there may be some dropouts. We only record sessions when we need to for assessment, but generally we don't. But I hope I kind of partly answered your question there.
Yeah, but 4 hours are too much, right?
Well, 2 hours a day, maybe is, but 4 hours would be too. I think 4 hours is too long. Yeah. An hour at a time. I don't think students' attention span would last that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Sophia, did you have a comment or a question?
Yeah. First of all, can you hear me well? Because my connectivity is quite low. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I would just like to add, Phil, that it also depends on the context and students' age, and also what you're teaching. I mean, if it is a conversational class, then it's different. If it is a writing class, it's different. And of course, if you teach young learners, then I don't know. I mean, young learner teachers might confirm that, because I only train young learner teachers. I don't teach young learners right now. But I remember from the past when I used to be a young learner teacher. I don't think that you can keep young learners or very young learners more than 15 minutes, perhaps, without a break. And also you need to be very interactive. So it really depends on many parameters. It's not just one optimal solution.
Yeah, there's so many factors at play. I've no experience of young learners. I would be scared at the thought of doing young learners in this kind of setting. But sort of leaving groups unattended for lengthy periods. But in terms of in answer to what you said and the previous one, that you have to think about what's appropriate for your students or the level that they're working at. On an EAP pre-sessional, an hour's lesson is enough, and there's still energy for a second hour, but with a half an hour break, and that's enough for one day, enough input or enough activities for the live session on any one given day. Okay.
Phil, there is a request. Do you need your slides, or shall I stop them because people want to see you?
They want to see me. Okay, I'm just going to, I think it's only fair, isn't it, Sophia, in this day and age that I show my reference slide.
Okay.
So, I mean, just before we finish and I put my video on, I'll stop sharing the slides, and the moderators and the committee members can put their video back on. Just a reflection, could you answer this question by using the button at the bottom? So you see where there's a little arrow at the bottom of the slides. You can change your status. You can change your status by answering this question to agree or disagree. I have a better understanding of Blackboard Collaborate and how to exploit the breakout room or breakout group option. Can you just change your status to agree, disagree, happy face, confused face? There's lots of options in there, and you'll see that in the participants list that will change your response to either a green or a red or a happy face, that kind of thing. Hopefully you got. And then one more question, and that is this. Okay, and that is, I have learned some tips and good practice when using breakout groups in general. So could you change your status to agree or disagree, or again, one of the other reactions? And of course, if you want to see me, you can toggle between me and the slides by clicking bottom right. There should be me. I'm waving at the moment, and you can click on that and it will bring up my video instead of the slides. But I think it's only fair in this day and age to show my reference slide, which will come on. Good. So I hope for some of you got some fun and some interesting conversations, discussions, met some new people in the breakout rooms. And committee, if you want to add, put your video on, you can do that. If you're happy to do that. Oh, there he is. I'm sorry about that. So I do apologize. We've gone about 20 minutes over time because it took time for me to move my slides on today, and also it's time to set up slides in the breakout room, certainly the second breakout session as well today. So I'm going to stop sharing the slides, so my video should be full screen if it's not already for you, and we'll draw that to a close.
Well, then thank you so much, Phil. I think it was a really interesting session, and I think it's one of the first we've had on university level students. So I think this is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, if anyone wants the slides, if you hang on a little bit longer, I can give you a link to the slides. Just give me a second. I've published them already. Share. Copy that. Right, let's go back to the chat. So somebody was asking for the slides, and here they are. There we go. Should be in the chat now, Joe. Hey, if it was you that I was asking, there's the slides. Right. Thank you there. So yeah, a bit run over time, but I'm a bit overwhelmed with the number of people that were attended today. So yeah. Thanks, Alan.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if anyone wants to verbally say thanks or thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry about the technical gremlins, technical problems I had.
Thank you very much. It was a nice learning time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.